tell us what you saw on the Wims fight and what was explained to you and what you just think about that behavior in general?
Yeah, I did not see it. I totally missed it. I was looking down when I heard about it. But what I did hear is what it looked like, which is completely unacceptable. We've talked to him and told him that that's not how things go here. Um, One of Javon's strengths is his character and who he is as a person, and he's since apologized, but that's not that's you don't have that. There's no part of that in this game. Again, I still haven't seen it, but from what I heard, it's not good. So um, that's not how we roll here, and that's there. We'll be talking to him.
JJ.
Matt, on that play, it took you from a second and sorry about that. On that play where Wims had the fight, it took you from a 2nd and 5 to a 2nd and 20. Nick got intercepted on that pass. How did that change your play call that you thought you were going to get when you're looking down at your sheet, thinking it was 2nd and 5, then all of a sudden you got to go to 2nd and 20?
Yeah, it's brutal. You come out in the third quarter, and we've struggled all year long in the third quarter, and I mean, JJ. I mean, you can totally understand the question you just asked. You go from 2nd and 5 to 2nd and 20. That's hard. That's hard. So what I don't like is you come out, it's a tie game, and you have an opportunity to do some things, and we go the other way, and then on top of that, we have that stuff that goes on. So I felt like it kind of took the sting out. The fire for a little bit. We had to regroup. The defense, at least in that situation with the field position, was able to hold them and not let them score touchdowns. But we had to regroup offensively on the sideline and just let these guys know, like we're, let's go, get on track and get out of that. And that's kind of why we were with that.
Jason.
Matt, how long have you been thinking about or working on that kind of role for Mitch? And is that something you could expand in your offense going forward?
Yeah, we could. Mitch. A lot of credit to Mitch. He's done a really good job at in his role that he's in right now, and it's a weapon for us to be able to use his legs and then obviously be able to throw the ball as well. So that's something that we're looking at, and every game could be a little bit different, but it's something that teams have to prepare for.
Adam Hogue.
And Matt, whether it was the Wims fight or some drops or penalties, some more confusion, it looked like pre-snap sometimes getting plays. And I think at one point the helmet went out, but just in general, it seemed like discipline was maybe an issue throughout this game and some unforced errors. Do you agree with that? And can you pinpoint why that continues to be an issue?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. You're right. There is issues there. That's what bothers me, and that's what pisses me off is that there is that issue still going on. Excuse my French, but we're reading it from a wristband. So I'm I'm struggling with that right now, and it's getting you into a hole. It's called and so that has to change. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I can't sit here and say anything other than what you just said. When you have somebody throwing punches, when you have the things that are going on right now with us in the offense and just trying to get things going, guys are fighting, they're sticking together, but then you have that happen. It takes away everything that you work hard to get to and fight for. And what bothers me is we got a lot of good guys that are doing things the right way, and then it takes it away.
Jeff Dickerson.
Yeah, man, to kind of follow up on that, how do you feel about the offense in general today? I mean, there were some really good moments. You had that 4-play, 80-yard drive, you aired out to Mooney, and great catch by A-Rob there for the touchdown at the end. They lead you guys back to force overtime. But how do you couple that with all the other issues you kind of just discussed, that stuff that seems like is kind of maybe holding you back sometimes offensively?
Sure. Yeah, I think when you look at the run game, and I thought it felt better today. It did feel better, and that team's pretty good against the run. It did feel better in the run game, so I was happy in that aspect. and we were able to have, I think we had a couple double-digit drives with plays, 13-play drive, a couple other ones. And so the rhythm of being able to get into rhythm was good. We did have a couple of those 3 and outs where that's hard. And then again, the start of that third quarter, I don't like, and it's been a theme. So trust me, we're looking at it. We've we've done different things in how to adjust that, and it's weird that it just keeps happening. So, but yeah, you're right. It's I did feel better about a lot of stuff, but none of that matters because you want to win.
Kevin Fishbane.
Matt, when you guys got the ball back in the third quarter, I think it was your third drive. You had the 3rd and 3. David came out short, and then Nick tried to call draw him off sides. For you as a head coach, what's going through your mind at that point? Your third possession, you talked about the struggles. I mean, how kind of much did you just want to stay out there, just try to sustain a drive at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I knew we weren't going to go for it there on 4th down. We're just like Sean did to us at the end, trying to get us to jump off sides and try to steal a free first down, and that's what we were doing. We tried to pop a run on that 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, just to steal a first down, which we've done. We did a couple times today on 3rd down, and that can keep a defense honest with some of the things they do, and you can hit some. We didn't hit that one, and so unfortunately it made it into that 4th and 1, 4th and 2. And your field position wasn't real good. And then also that wind at that point in time was kind of kicking in our face. So it just, that one hurt a little bit.
Stacey Dales.
Coach, you appear to be very emotional. None of us can understand what it's like to be in your position. What kind of emotions are you feeling right now going through this process? To give us a perspective of how difficult this is in a pandemic against a really good team, and you're, fighting for your life, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say the frustration comes just because I want it so bad for these guys. I want it for the city. I want it for our organization. And I care a lot about all of that I just said. And so it's emotional at the end of a game when you fight like this and you're playing against a good football team and a Hall of Fame quarterback and they're a good football team. So to lose like that on a last second field goal in overtime, there's positives that you take out of it. But again, it's always better to coach off the wins than it is the losses. When we reflect at where we're at right now, I know no one's happy and we're not happy. But what we got to do is, fortunately for us, any way you look at it, we ended up winning these 5 games early on. And so now we got to figure out, okay, are we going to start going against each other, or are we going to stick together and fight through this thing? And I know what we'll do. It's just, it takes time. And then anytime you lose 2 games in a row, that part hurts too. We don't want that. We don't like that, but we got to rely on the leaders right now. In times like this, this is times, in my opinion, when the leaders of your team, they step up and they say, all right, enough's enough. It's go time. And that's where we're at right now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Pat Finley.
Matt, you guys have leaned on your defense all year. When it gets to overtime and they allow 2 fairly substantial drives, what did you make of their performance and the ability to get home, or the inability to get home to Breeze when rushing the passer?
Yeah, there's a few plays here or there that I know that they'll want back, but we feed off of our defense. That's just, let's face the facts. That's who we are. That's who this team is. We feed off of how our defense does, and I'll never question or get on those guys in regards to what I think they're doing or not doing. I'm proud of them. I think they play hard, and again, they're going against a really good offense today and a great quarterback. So. I'm going to rely on them, continue to keep listening to what their suggestions are and where they're at. They're going to keep fighting. Chuck and the coaches are going to do the same thing. And then we as a unit collectively, all 3 phases can only follow, and just keep, but I'm proud of them. And I know they're going to want to always play better, but we got to just keep plugging along.
A couple more for Coach. Jason Leisure.
Matt, offensively, I look at this and it seems like one of your better games. It seems like progress possibly. Is your frustration the fact that you see those flashes and there's a disparity between what the offense could be and what it consistently is?
Yeah, I think you're right. That's what it is. And it's hard. It's hard for me to try to figure that thing out. It's hard because we're all trying. And, you know, we talked about just cutting it loose and just having fun and not playing tight and doing that. And there was a lot of times in that game I felt where we were doing that. And again, I'm just going to continue to go back. I'm really, really bothered by that third quarter incident. That bothers me. I'm being completely honest with you guys. It bothers me. And so, but I am proud of the guys that played hard. I'm proud of the guys that were selfless and tried to do everything they could to help us win.
Adam Hogue.
And Matt, understanding that you had a few guys out on the offensive line, how do you, I guess, judge what Nick is doing? Sometimes it just seemed like he was retreating a lot, moving backwards a lot, sometimes throwing as he's moving backwards. How do you judge how much the offensive line is causing that versus situations where maybe he can step up and handle it better? And in general, how did you feel like Nick Foles played today?
Sure. Yeah, it's hard for those tackles if you do keep back on. And I'm not saying, because it's, again, like in my shoes when I'm out there calling plays and doing different things, I can't see all the exact details of that until I watch the tape. And I know Nick is trying his damnedest to be able to push up in the pocket and do different things. But that is a big part of this, and he'll be hard on himself on when he's doing it and not doing it, and where his eyes are at when the ball's coming out, what the accuracy is of the throws, his decision making, etc. And then when the throws are being made, are we making catches? Are we protecting? It all needs to be in unity. And right now, there's just a little bit of that off, which is a reflection of how we're going right now on offense. There was a couple drives in there, and that one where, let's face it, he made an unbelievable throw on that deep post to Mooney and followed it right back up with a great throw and a trust to A-Rob, and A-Rob made a spectacular catch. That felt good for us. We needed that. And that's what you want to kind of feed off of and like, okay, now we can get going. Now we can play ball. That's us. That's who we know we can be, all of us together. And so is it going to be perfect? No, guys. Look at the Saints. You look at what they did offensively, and there's times where they weren't perfect and things weren't great, but they won the game and they did enough when they had to. So we got guys that, they want it. And when you want it, you just keep plugging away. And I know it's hard, but trust me, we want it for everybody. We want it for you guys. We want it for us. We want to win. We want to win. We want to win. And we're not going to stop until we do, getting better at fixing everything.
Last one for Coach Dan Wiederer.
Matt, how significant was the wind on the field today? And then late in the first half, you guys had a chance to go up 17-3 and stalled out inside the red zone. Anything about the end of that series that sticks out to you when you think about it now?
The win, number one, was at times it was kind of swirling. At one point in time, I thought it was going left to right. And then literally 30 seconds later, I said to the coaches, I think it's now going right to left. So it was kind of back and forth. But I didn't think it affected the throws as much as I thought maybe going into today that it would. And then that series there, like you said, to be able to go up 17-3 instead 13-3. Again, we feel like, in the red zone, that's where we have players that can be, good threats and put it together. And so, yeah, that one there. And then again, at the end of the half, knowing that we're getting the ball to start the third, and we gave up that touchdown there to make it, we were doing a great job on D the whole time, and then they just kind of chunked away and got that touchdown at the end. I thought that was kind of big too.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
Hey, Nick, the drives at the end of regulation and in overtime, they were both kind of laborious, but in regulation, you got the job done. In overtime, you did not. What was the difference? Was there anything defensively they did? And also on that third down play in overtime on the sack before the punt, was there anything you could have done, in maneuvering the pocket that turns that into a big play, or was that just going to be a sack?
I think the big thing is just we were able to execute at the end of regulation and give ourselves an opportunity to push the game into overtime. Our special teams did a great job. Coward did a great job. And then the third down you're specifically talking about, I was moving around, moving in the pocket, looking downfield because it was, I don't know the exact distance off the top of my head, but it was a little longer. So you're trying to look for a big play right then and there. Nothing there. So just try to be smart at that point, and not throw the ball in harm's way for field position purpose and, just get down. But my eyes were looking, trying to find someone open downfield. They did a nice job covering up.
Thank you.
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Nick, in talking to Matt, he seemed understandably bothered by some of the pre-snap confusion and some of those issues. It looked like your helmet went out at some point. But he also mentioned how you're looking at the wristband. I don't know if he meant that as like maybe the issue shouldn't be happening, but I guess why do you feel like those issues are still popping up and what can be done to fix them?
Yeah, I mean, it's just we just have to communicate better, and that's something that we'll have to talk about as we go forward. That's something that we as players and coaches will get together and figure out where the issues are lying, because I don't have an answer for you. I know that each game we've had a couple instances that haven't, the communication hasn't been well, so we have to figure out what's going on.
JJ.
Nick, I'm just curious, where do you feel like your grasp of this offense is right now? Just now 5 starts in, and your handle on just the responsibilities that you have inside it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a good grasp on what we're doing right now. The big thing is we just have to continue to work and build on the positives for tonight. And then where we maybe have mistakes as an offense, just working on cleaning those things up. And that's the process we talk about, because there were good things out there. We were able to improve in different areas, get some explosive plays and whatnot. So those are the things we have to focus on as an offense and continue to move forward.
Jason.
Nick, with explosive plays, the 80-yard drive you guys had was probably the best you guys have looked. Why hasn't that kind of stuff happened more in the offense?
That's something that we're working towards. If I had that answer, it probably wouldn't be happening, right? So I think it's just, rhythm, tempo, all the little things in football that we're figuring out. There's a lot of new moving pieces here, whether it be coaches and players, that we're working to bond together and figure out this as a unit. And, the thing on the sideline was there was never a lack of belief in the game. The sidelines were positive. There was always belief. We were always in it. And we were continuing to play, and we just played until that clock hit 0. And unfortunately, it didn't turn out, with a victory for us. But there were positives out there from a growth standpoint from this offense, and that's really what we got to focus on.
Dan Wiederer.
Nick, you had those back-to-back deep shots. What did you see on the long ball to Mooney down the middle, and then also on the touchdown ball to A-Rob?
Yeah, I mean, they had a safety cut, a deep cross, and I was able to get a ball down the middle to Mooney, and then they went man coverage, and A-Rob, we were able to connect on a great route and just try to put the ball back there and let him make a play. So that was nice getting going right there.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Nick, the interception in the third quarter, I imagine that was just kind of a flurry of events following Javon's ejection. What went wrong on the pick, and then how did you as a quarterback try to put into perspective just that sequence that went on for you guys?
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy that went on right there that I have no clue what happened, but specifically on the pick, I gotta get a better ball to Jimmy. I was trying to flick it out there, and that's on me. I got to get him a better ball so he can make a play.
Joe Lewis.
Yeah, hey, Nick, how would you rate the job Sam Mustipher did in replacing Cody Whitehair this week?
Yeah, obviously, Cody's working hard to get healthy, but, we're so excited to get him back. But, Sam really did a great job stepping up. He's a really great young player, really smart, great mentality. I thought he did a really nice job tonight.
Brad Biggs.
Hey, Nick, did Javon Wims address the team afterward? And if so, what did he say to you guys?
You know what? I don't have a comment on that question. Just being honest.
Couple more for Nick. Jason.
So, Nick, big picture here. Do you look at today as step forward, step backward for the offense? What was this?
You know what? It's a step along this journey. That's an NFL season. It's you know, obviously you want to win, but we didn't win today. So I look at it as it's another step along this journey of building this team and building this culture of what we want to be, coaches and players. And it's sometimes it's tough, and you know this is a tough one to lose. But at the end of the day, I believe the people in this organization are going to approach this the right way, in a positive way, and move forward. Because there were good things tonight, and we were very close. Yes, we lost, and that is unfortunate. But I think the only way to be in this situation is positive and learn and be there and believe. Because when you do those things, amazing things happen. And you look back at moments like this where we lost some tough ones, you know, and you say, you know what, in those moments, that's where we built this culture. So that's what I'm looking at. That's how I'm looking at it, is believing that we're building something. We've done some good things this year. We haven't made it easy for ourselves, but I do believe this is a really great locker room and a special locker room. And, you know, we're bonding and we're going, and you can do something with that. So I'm excited what the future holds for this team.
Dan?
Nick, late in the first half, you guys had the chance to go 17-3 and stalled out a little bit in the red zone. Do you remember the final parts of that sequence, and how frustrating was it to not be able to punch that in at the end of the half there to really put your grasp on the game?
So you're at, sorry, it sort of blanked out for a little bit. You're talking about the end of the half, putting it in.
Yeah, you guys had the chance to go up 17-3. We're down there in the red zone, and then kind of just stalled out there. Just wondered your thoughts on that sequence.
Yeah. Anytime you're in the red zone, we gotta do a better job of coming away with touchdowns. So that's something that we need to look at, you know, as an offense, and figure out, you know, in those situations, you go up 17-3, that's tough, but 13-3, I mean, that's only 10 points. So, but that's a great question, you know, coming away with a touchdown, that, and getting the ball coming into the second half, that's a huge scenario, and that can really help put a team away. So I think in moments like that, we really got to be able to execute in the red zone. Red zone football is really important, and we got to get better at it.
Last one, Adam Hogue.
Hey, Nick, my fault. I should have asked a more direct question earlier, but did your headset go out at one point? Is that what led to some of those issues? And
yeah,
when you have the wristband, how does that help? Why do you use it? I guess, what's its purpose?
Yeah, my headset did go out randomly, so I had to actually switch my helmet at one point, but I wasn't getting calls for a couple plays, so I was having to run over the sideline just to hear what, you know, the play was, and then we were able to put it together. And then the wristband's basically for unique plays that maybe there's different tags that become little stories of themselves, to where it's just easier to have it on the wristband to make sure that I like it because it allows me more time at the line of scrimmage to see things instead of waiting. So there's a purpose for it. I believe in the wristband. I've done it for a lot of my career, and you know, the communication thing, great teams communicate well, and that's something that we're working towards. Once again, there's a lot of new pieces here that we're in the fire right now. We're going through it, and we're going to keep getting better. We're going to continue to lean on each other and believe in one another. That is what we're going to do.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you all. You all have a great night.
Hakeem, how frustrating is this loss given the fight you showed? And then also the drive at the end of the first half, when you guys had played a really solid half and then let them get in right before the half ended. What was your reaction to that sequence?
That's a tough. I'll address the halftime score first. You know, that's a tough feeling, right? It's a tough feeling as a defense to be in a good position and give up a play like that, or even I would imagine at most we want to give up a field goal in that situation, because they did drive down the field, right? And you got to respect that. But the one thing that I think that our defense is built on is standing up. You know what I'm saying? We'll get some controversy. We'll have a bad play. We're human beings. But when it comes clutch time, it's not okay to be human. We got to be different, and we understand that, you know. Sorry if I'm a little amped up. I had a few pre-workouts, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Adam Hogue.
Hey, Hakeem, as a teammate, what was your reaction to the Javon Wims fight? And, I mean, how is that handled in the locker room after the game?
I didn't see it, to be honest with you. I didn't see it. Heard something about it, but this game of football is pretty emotional, right? We got a lot of things going on, extrinsic and intrinsic, you know what I'm saying? It's situations that we have to cover and we have to be prepared for. I think that I lost my cool before. You know, it's part of the game. The elite, and if you want to be elite, you got to be able to control some of those moments. You got to be able to, you know, put whatever emotion you got going on, put it in the pocket because your team means more. And knowing the character of Javon, I know that he doesn't want to have, you know, a situation that might go, you know, sour. So with a lot of respect for him, I understand that, you know, things happen and we'll move forward.
Pat Finley.
Hey, Keem, in terms of getting home to the quarterback, how much of that was the Saints being effective and how much of that was you guys needing a little more in the pass rush?
You have an elite quarterback in Drew Brees, someone that is able to manipulate the pocket and do things well in order to get himself out of trouble situations, right? And you know, if you want my opinion on how we rushed today, I think we rushed well. I think we're constantly pestering him. I think that we were in his face. I think that you know, we did our best to dominate the game in the way that we could. Is there going to be a situation or a play that we want back or want more from? Of course, those are going to transpire throughout the course of the game. But overall, I think that we understood who we were playing and we played our game plan to the best of our ability. So to answer your question, I want more sacks too, you know, but it just doesn't happen sometimes. And you got to be, you know, you got to be controlled enough to say, hey, I'm gonna get him on the next play. That play don't work. I'm gonna get him on the next play. You got to have that hunger to keep pushing yourself, right? Sometimes I'll leave that question there. We're good. I answered it for you.
Kevin Fishbane.
Hey, Keem, obviously last week was tough coming off of LA, and then you have this. And Matt said this is the type of time where you rely on your leaders, you rely on your veterans. What do you think it's going to be like this week, knowing your guys, knowing what you guys have been through, and where your team's at? What do you kind of expect this week?
I expect what we have every week. We have a group of guys that are ready to work. You know, whether we're up and we're 5-1 or being 5-3 at this point, we have a group of guys that are ready to work. And so that's what we will do this week. When we step on the practice field, we will work.
Mike Berman.
Akeem, it's the halfway point, 5-3. How would you summarize and assess this first half of the season?
We're an elite team. We're an elite team, and we can play at a high level. The consistency behind that is something that we need to improve throughout the course of the game.
Couple more for Akeem. Dan.
Akeem, obviously you'll have a night to sleep on this. You'll have a week to get past it. But the raw emotion tonight, how do you describe what's at the root of that for you as you leave here tonight?
The raw emotion. I got a lot of that, huh?
Well, you said you're amped up and yeah, that it's, you know, that it's there for you right now.
It's you gotta let it hurt sometimes. You gotta let it hurt. You don't work all week to come in on Sunday and not perform the way you want to perform. And the ultimate goal of that performance is to get a W. We didn't get that tonight, so it's gonna hurt. You're gonna have that long drive home, and you're gonna be thinking about the things that you want to do better. Doing better the next time you're on the field.
How do you solidify this team as elite going forward? How do you make sure that you guys stay there?
There's a certain amount of humbleness that goes into it. You know, you never think down on yourself. You always keep your confidence high, but you acknowledge the points where you want to improve. You acknowledge the points where that may be your weakness, and you attack those. That's my plan.
Last one for Akeem. Joe Lewis.
Yeah, Akeem, you all have the defense has had to be put in situations where you have had to hold opposing teams when they were up several times. Does this ever create a frustration between the defense and the offense?
No.
Or is this something you all work through?
No.
Thanks for your time, Akeem.
Hey, Alan, can you just first take us through your touchdown grab? What did you see?
Yeah, I had a corner route. Again, I tried to give him a nod or something to win. You know, I was able to create some separation. Nick threw a great ball, and I was able to come down with it.
Cam Ellis.
Hey, Alan. When you're talking, are you talking to Javon Wims after the play there? And if so, what are you saying to him, or is that something that you don't really?
I mean, I haven't got a chance to talk to him. Yeah, I haven't got a chance to talk to him since the play, so I'm pretty sure we'll have a conversation this week.
Joe Lewis.
Yeah, hey, Rob. You, Darnell Mooney, Anthony Miller have all had pretty good games today, yet the offense still struggled to find consistent drives. Is there something you all feel that you all can do or pull yourself together to get back in consistent drive mode, or is this just something you all have to deal with for the rest of the season?
I got to break down the film to see why, and the stats to see why we weren't as consistent as we may have wanted to be. Stuff off the top of my head that I could think of is we had a couple of penalties. I believe that pushed us back, which gave us some tough down and distance. I think we had one on third down. We had one, I think, on second down, to be specific that, going from second and 5 situations to second and 20, or going from third and 6 to third and 11. A situation like that is always tough, So, again, I think that's something right there, because, again, I feel like sometimes when we was gaining momentum and had some momentum going, we either had something derail, to put us back in tough field position.
Dang, Reader.
Alan, could you take us through what you saw on the touchdown catch in the first half, and also a very non-traditional week for you? What was the week like as you were trying to get clearance to play?
Yeah, man, it was pretty crazy. Again, not being able to practice, so pretty much just trying to like look at the game plan and just trying to get it on the fly. So again, that was probably the toughest part. I'm a big guy with muscle memory. Being able to get out there, get lined up, whether it's through walkthrough or practice and stuff like that. So not being able to do that all week was pretty tough. Again, I was able to try to do some things in the mix that to keep my conditioning up and stuff like that. But as far as the touchdown ball, again, based on how he kind of was playing and things like that, I just kind of wanted to sell speed, get him a little off balance, and then just run, and I was able to do that, and Nick put me a good ball.
JJ Stankovitz.
Alan, the TV broadcast showed you kind of taking a walk there in the fourth quarter after another possession ended in a punt or not a touchdown. You were kind of talking to yourself. What were you just trying to talk to yourself about, just kind of psych yourself up, and what was that kind of moment like for you?
Yeah, again, when you're in the game, things can get frustrating, especially when you're not moving the ball how you want to or something like that, So, again, for me, I'm not a person who is about to go, I'm not getting up in people's faces and stuff like that, So, for me, I just took a walk to try to figure out, if there was anything that I could do better, anything that, I wasn't seeing or something like that, based on what was going on, So, again, that's kind of how I always do. Like, if I ever get frustrated, if there's ever frustrating moments in the game, I cool myself off, firstly, and then I go back, and try to figure out, okay, where can we be better at here or there? Again, there's no reason for me to come over to the bench, frustrated, trying to figure out how I can be better and how we can be better, when I don't have a calm mind.
Dang, Reader.
Alan, you talked about the need to create more explosive plays offensively. You guys got your touchdown right after the deep shot to Mooney. What did that drive feel like where you guys finally got a rhythm and produced one of those quick strike drives like that?
Yeah, like I said before, whenever we can do that and get those chunks of the field, I think that definitely changed the landscape of the game. When you think about it, a 20-yard play is a fifth of the field. So again, depending on where you're starting your drive at, if you get a 35-yard play or a 20-yard play or a 40-yard play, I know it's some statistic out there that'll for sure show that your chances of scoring increases. So I think that's a big thing is being able to create explosive. Because again, that's one play where you're taking up 1 to 2/5 of the field right there. So again, once we did that, you saw that, we got from wherever we were at down to about the 25 or so yard line. And then we were able to throw another ball, to punch it in. So again, when we're able to create explosive, like I said before, that's the biggest thing for an offense is you don't want to play, pretty much, 5 yards for 5 yards. It's tough to win like that. You have to create explosive in this league.
All right, we got time for a couple more. We're gonna go Joe, JJ, and Dan to close it out. Joe Lewis.
Yeah, hey Rob. What is the mood in the locker room right now? With you all having a 2-game skid and still within striking distance, what is the mood between you all?
Yeah, like I said before, I've been in this league 7 years. Again, to go 5-3 in the first half is not, perfect. Obviously you want to go 8-0, but at the end of the day, we're 5-3. That's where we're at halfway through. Everything that we want that, still is in front of us. So at the end of the day, that's NFL. We lost today. Again, we got to chalk it up, get ready for have a good week of practice and go get it. Like for me, I'm ready to play right now for real, So, that's just how it is. Again, you got to shake that off. You got to have a quick memory. You got to go out there, get right this week. And, we got to get ready for next week's game.
JJ Stankovitz.
Alan, was there any part of you, has there been any part of you that as the offensive struggles are kind of going on and things are sloppy, thinking about, hey, what would it be like if Mitch were in here? Is that a thought that has ever crossed your mind, specifically today?
For me, I'm not a hindsight person. Hindsight always 2020. So again, you can look at any situation how you want to look at it, regardless, But again, when you out there playing something like that, you can't think like that. I don't even let my mind get that no matter what's going on. No matter what's going on in the game for me, I'm trying to figure out how I can be the best Allen Robinson I can be to help my team win games, and that's my main and only focus. Again, I can't factor in everything that's going on outside of me, or everything that's, I can't even take my mind there. I made that decision, a long time ago that I'm gonna always go out there and try to help myself be the best player to help this team be the best team that it can be, and that's that.
Team leader.
Alan, you've lived through some tough misses of field goals in that north end zone. What was your reaction when Cairo crunched the 51-yarder to tie it?
Man, I was excited. Again, that's as a offense. Obviously we would have loved to score a touchdown right there, but at the end of the day, with the circumstances, with our defense getting the stop, with us getting the ball back, all we want to do is give our kicker a chance, or give ourselves a chance, really. So being able to move the ball down, to get ourselves in field goal range, and for him to come up big like that, man, that's huge. Again, like I said before, for me, in my perspective, losses like this are especially tough, when you lose in overtime, to an NFC opponent especially. But at the end of the day, like I said before, man, we know what kind of team we are. We've had some ups and downs right now, but again, the first half of the season is behind us. We can kind of, look forward to this second half, and for me, I'm putting my foot on the gas, so I think that everybody gonna follow suit, and we're ready to go for these next 8, and we're gonna see.
Yeah, hey, Roquan. It seems like the Bears defense has been a bend but don't break defense this entire season. But going into this game and for the future, do you all feel like you can keep up this level of play, the bend but don't break style, or will you all have to adjust going forward?
I definitely think we can keep up this style, but obviously this style is not good enough. So therefore, there's always work to do. So we just got to get back in the lab and continue to get better, and that's our focus, because it's not good enough.
JJ Stankovitz.
Hey, Roquan, I'm just curious, since you're a former teammate of Javon's, did you talk to him in the locker room about what happened and what went down on the field there?
No, I have not.
Any other questions for Roquan? Sean Heyman.
Roquan, just how tough was Alvin Kamara today?
He's a good player, as we all know, for sure. But just like there's a lot of good players across this league, so when your name is called, you just got to step up to the plate. So I just look at it just like that for any and everyone. But he's for sure a good player.
JJ Stankovitz.
Roquan, was this loss deflating at all, given how much the defense did get it into position to get the game into overtime, and then get the offense the ball in overtime with a chance to win the game?
No, we just look at it like this. We didn't give enough. So at the end of the day, they kicked the field goal at the end, so they got that on us. So at the end of the day, we just got to get back in the lab and continue to get better. And we just can't hang our heads on this L. We just got to get back in the lab and start preparing for Tennessee.
Pat Finley.
Roquan, when you guys allowed them to score 20 straight there, what can you put your finger on what the lull was for the defense there?
Not really sure, honestly. Just got to get back in the lab, got to look at this film, get better from it, and see what we can do to get better and give the team the best shot of winning.
Joe Lewis.
Yeah, Roquan, you all are still 5-3 and still within striking distance of the top of the NFC North. But with your skid, is there a sense of panic on the team, or you all feel like you just need to go back and change what needs to be changed?
Yeah, it's no panic. It's no panic whatsoever. We're just looking at it. It was a tough loss tonight. hats off to those guys over in New Orleans and played a heck of a game. So we just got to focus on getting better and coming out next week and getting back on the winning track, because that's all it is. You can't hang your head on this L.
Hey, Rokon, can you hear me?
I can.
Can you just go through just a little bit of the end of the first half there? It seemed like if you guys just got them to catch a ball inbounds and take them down, they would have never had a chance to get in for the touchdown. I know it was a long time ago in the game, but it feels like a pretty big drive that, just they kept getting balls to the outside. Was there any talk about let's get these guys down in the field of play?
You definitely want to try to get the guys down. You don't get any yards. That's any defense. The less yards they get, the less likely they are to score or get points in general. So our thing was it happened, so we can't dwell on that. At the end of the day, it was just about coming out in the second half and trying to do better than the first half. But obviously, didn't work out in our favor, so we just got to get back in the lab.
It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles. WCPT. WCPT.
This the coldest sports show. You were getting the hour from 6 p.m. to 7. Chillin' with Lauren Cox and the man Marvelous. Shout out to Mr. Riles and the Italian style. You what sports is the only politic.
WCPT. WCPT. It's the freshest radio show in town. Feeling marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles.
Come on, Marvelous!
It's the freshest radio show in town.
There you go, raise the
Feeling
roof.
marvelous, I've been with Jerry Riles.
That's our boy the Q, 17th letter in the alphabet, Quentin Dent. Welcome everybody to another edition of the Rewind Sports 60. We're broadcasting live from the illustrious studios of WCPT 820 AM in the beautiful, beautiful city of Chicago. We're rocking it on the lakefront, shaking the lake. Well, we're trying to shake the lake. The Chicago Bears are playing host to Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints over at Soldier Field. And I just got it from our esteemed producer, Devin Tingle. The Bears have just scored. They were trailing 23-13, but they just scored to narrow the gap pending the PAT.
It was good.
Down by 3 with under 5 minutes to go in the contest, ladies and gentlemen. And we know you all are watching the football game, but we want you to keep the volume down on the channel, on the TV, and we want you to keep the volume up on your radio dial and or on Facebook streaming live. Yours truly, Jerry Riles. It is the fastest hour in sports conversation. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a show in store for you. And of course, we want to welcome the one, the only. Ladies and gentlemen, he's not over at Wrigley Field in the press box over there. He's not in the stands. He's not in the bleachers. He's not at U.S. Cellular, despite the fact we will be talking a little bit about the Chicago White Sox. But ladies and gentlemen, he's in studio at WCPT 820 AM. He's known as the Marvelous One. He's Dan Marver. What's up, Marver?
Hi,
How
Jerry.
are you?
I'm great. I think a guaranteed rate in Wrigley, you might be able to vote now. A lot of these places, United Center.
Yeah.
So get out there and vote, number one. And number two, like we were talking about the Bears, this guy almost got 100 yards rushing today. My God. they may pull this out yet. The 3 minutes and 32 seconds to go, so we'll see what happens. But the baseball season ended kind of interestingly in the COVID world with Justin Turner ending up getting infected in the middle of the game. They announced it, so it's a crazy year all the way around.
It is. It certainly has been a crazy year, no question about it. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers and Dave Roberts on winning the World Series, the first time in 32 years? 1988, of course, the Kirk Gibson homer that sparked everything in the Game 1 winner back in 1988. But congratulations to Magic Johnson and the entire family of the Los Angeles Dodgers on winning the World Series title over the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll get an opportunity to talk to USA Today's Major League Baseball writer and columnist Bob Nightingale. He is a friend of the program because, hey, you know what? Jerry Reinsdorf of the Chicago White Sox announced that Tony La Russa, 76-year-old Tony La Russa, your manager for your Chicago White Sox. And as they say, the crowd was stunned, ladies and gentlemen. The crowd was stunned. Marvelous.
Yeah, trying to make up for a mistake he made.
Yeah, but is it a mistake for him to try to make up a mistake?
I don't know. I mean, LaRusse actually, I mean, he obviously has the creds to do the job. I just thought that maybe he wouldn't be able to relate to the youngsters, but we'll see what happens. And in any event, this is the age of the 70-pluses being leaders. So let's do it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's certainly do it. And it is the age of the 70-plus. It's the age, it's the age of the 70-plus-year-old man, so to speak, because, I mean, this race, and ladies and gentlemen, on a serious, we were always serious here. Real sports, real talk, just plain real. Check us out on the RewindSports60.com. Of course, on Facebook Live. We also stream on YouTube, so we want you to definitely check out the Rewind Sports 60. But this is a very, very serious time in our history as far as this country is concerned. And on Tuesday, if you haven't already cast your vote, you have to be responsible, regardless of whichever decision you make, whichever way you vote. You have to be responsible and get your vote in on Tuesday.
And if you don't, you have nothing to complain about.
Well, that's exactly right. There's nothing for you to complain about. But a lot of people in the past, especially in the black community, to say, my vote don't count, man. It don't count, man. They're just gonna do what they're gonna do. Yeah. Well, the reason they get a chance to do what they want to do is the fact that you didn't vote and you haven't voted. And so you can't complain, like Marvelous said, about what's going on, what your conditions are, if you don't get out and exercise your right to vote.
It is interesting, though. The last couple elections, it's like there are a few states that seem to make the difference: North Carolina, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida. So it's like it's almost like your vote maybe means more if you live in those states, as it turns out.
Well, I mean, for this race that's coming up, these elections that are coming up, the key major states, obviously, there is Pennsylvania, it's Florida, it's Texas, it's Georgia, it's even Ohio, Wisconsin. I think it was a swing state, but regarding the numbers and COVID-19, I think that state, our neighbors up north, I think they're swinging in the other direction. But those are typically the key states that will decide the presidency. And from records and from what the pundits are saying on both the outlets, and I educate myself, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not as astute as some of my colleagues are concerned as far as politics are concerned, but so I do try to check out and take in CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, because I want to get an overall perspective on the parties, the candidates, and the position. And the pundits are saying Florida, obviously, that's a big one. And who I consider the greatest president of all time, president number 44, that of course, Barack Obama, when he won, I mean, he took Florida. And all the presidents in the past, you win Florida, you pretty much got it signed, sealed, and delivered. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see how everything unfolds. And we have, close to 80 million people, Marvelous, who've already cast their vote?
Yeah, it's incredible. And some of it has to do with the pandemic, and a lot of folks are able to vote early, unfortunately, that may have too much free time on their hands, shall we say. And also the great interest in it, as divided as everything is, makes it so that people really want to have their voices heard.
Yeah, I mean, people, you should have your voices heard, and this is your opportunity. This is your chance to definitely make sure that it is heard. And I commend all of you, and congratulations to those of you who've already cast. I've voted already, the mail-in vote. Congratulations to you, Marvelous. Thank you for casting your vote and being a responsible American, a responsible citizen, and the greatest country in the world. That, of course, the United States of America. And speaking of the greatest president of all time, you would agree, wouldn't you, Marvelous?
The greatest president of all time?
Of all time here in the United States.
Of all time?
Of all time.
Okay, well, I don't.
I mean, you agree with me, don't you?
I mean, I don't think it was James Polk.
No, of course it wasn't. It's number 44.
Okay,
you know who he is.
There you go.
Yeah, it was this guy. No, you cut it off too soon. You cut it off too soon. But if you didn't hear it, check it out again, the sounder. That's what I do. That is what the greatest president of all time, President Barack Obama, said in the state of that state up north that we don't really talk about. But he made a 3-pointer at a gym up there. And as he was walking out, as you heard in the background, his staff and even Biden, who was in attendance, he couldn't believe it. And, of course, the greatest president of all time that our country's ever seen, number 44, President Barack Obama, he said, that's what I do. That's what I do. Marvelous. He kind of reminded me of myself.
Really?
Yeah. He's a left-hander. I'm a left-hander. I got the jumper from the baseline. I swish it just like that. He reminded me of me.
Well, there you go. You got a lot in common.
Well, we got some things in common. I don't know if we have a lot in common. He was the president.
I think he made more income.
Yeah, his income bracket is a lot higher than mine. There's no question about it. Our number here is 773-763-9278, 773-763-WCPT. If you want to jump in, if you have any comment you want to make regarding anything in the world of sports, and of course the Bears are trying to hold on to get their 6th victory in this halfway through this NFL season. They're taking on Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints over there on the lakefront, 23-20.
2-minute warning.
2-minute warning. We're going to keep you up to speed, and as soon as the game is over, we'll break down all the stats as far as the game is concerned, and hopefully before we're out of here, the fastest hour in sports conversation, we'll get a chance to hear from your head coach of the Chicago Bears, that, of course, Matt Nagy, and his presser, and hopefully it is for a Bears victory, and I wish I had an opportunity to talk to Matt Nagy before we go to our first guest, Bob Nightingale. You love the guy. He's fantastic, but I wish I had an opportunity to talk to Matt Nagy, and I would ask him the question. I think it was about the 4:43 mark in the first period of action, the first quarter of action in this football game, where he actually pulled Nick Foles and he put in Mitchell Trubisky.
1 carry for 3 yards.
Why?
I thought that maybe the helmet came off. I didn't hear any other explanation.
And kudos to Joe Buck and, of course, Troy Aikman doing the color and the play-by-play, and, of course, Aaron Andrews on the sideline. But none of them, they didn't. You said maybe it was a helmet malfunction with Nick Foles. They didn't say anything about it. And I'm scratching my head. Why are they trotting this guy out here? No, we don't. Listen, Nagy, and this is what I would ask. I go, listen, Matt, we do love you here in Chicago. Your play calling is a little suspect, a little skeptical, but the one thing you don't have to do is try all this trickery stuff. Don't bring Mitchell Trubisky in for you're not doing anything to help yourself.
The other thing I thought is they're trying to match Taysom Hill, which is what the New Orleans does.
They're two different, believe me.
Yeah.
They're like night and day when you look at those two.
Yeah.
When you look at Hill for the Saints and you look at our Trubisky, they're night and day. They're night and day, and it makes sense. It makes sense from New Orleans' perspective. And Sean Payton, he has a track record. So it makes sense when he's going to do something like that. As far as Matt Nagy is concerned, I don't think so. But before we get an opportunity to talk more about the Chicago Bears, Bruce Heron, our regular Sunday contributor to break down the Bear games, will be joining us again at the conclusion of this game. And hopefully the Bears can hold on to improve to 6-2 and take total control of the NFC North. The Green Bay Packers, what a game.
Yeah, well,
the Minnesota Vikings.
Now it's funny. I thought that maybe we'd get a break after Tennessee playing Minnesota. It's not going to be so easy either.
Not at all. Not at all. But we'll get a chance hopefully to talk a little bit more regarding the Bears and their progress. Again, hopefully they'll get a victory. Bruce Heron will be joining us, the former linebacker, number 51 in your program, number 1 in our hearts. But before we do that, we'll get a chance to go out west and bring in a friend of the program. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard him on the Rewind Sports 60 many a times, and he's joining us on this Sunday, this Bear Sunday. He writes for the USA Today as the writer, columnist, Major League Baseball. He's on our TR60 hotline. Welcome to the program again. He's Bob Nightingale. Bob, how are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks.
Hey, man, thank you so very much for taking some time out on this Sunday, this football Sunday, to join us. But you know what? And you've been fantastic. And we actually, we talked with you when it all unfolded as far as Jerry Reinsdorf putting Tony La Russa's name out there as a candidate to become the next White Sox manager, replacing Ricky Renteria, and many people, definitely here in Chicago, and a lot of my colleagues, they thought it was just a joke. And of course, around the nation, many people simply couldn't believe it for the simple fact that Tony La Russa is 76 years of age, and we thought, you can't do that. No, Rick Hahn said we're going for an experienced guy. We're going for a guy that these players can relate to and who understands today's game. And this is the direction we're going. We're going from step A to step B, and we're ready to win a championship. And hey, man, you put it out there. You stuck to your guns. You said it was going to happen, and it certainly did this past week. How did you feel? Let me ask you that. I got to ask you how you feel, because, it's very difficult, especially in this industry, to be out somewhat on an island by yourself, and everyone is taking shots at you left and right, not believing your work is impeccable. There's no question about it. But people taking shots at you and saying, hey, this guy is crazy, or he's just leaking out some information just to keep people off track or whatever. How did you feel once the announcement was officially made by the Chicago White Sox this past week and Rick Hahn?
Well, I was confident it was going to happen. And the only way it wasn't going to happen is if Tony La Russa turned it down. I mean, he was their guy all along. And then, he accepted the deal on Monday. But the World Series was still going on. They didn't want to, upend that. So, yeah, he was the guy. And once he showed interest that he was going to do it, there was no second choice. If there was going to be a second choice, if he turned it down, it would be Bruce Bochy, who, resigned a year ago from the San Francisco Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Who's, actually 6 weeks old. But it was never going to be, A.J. Hinch. Bochy would have been the second choice.
Wow, that's it. That's very, very interesting. And of course, AJ was just signed with the Detroit Tigers, who are in the division with the White Sox. So that's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic as far as the next 3 years are concerned regarding both the Tigers and the Chicago White Sox. Because basically, and the Sox were very, very surprising, albeit as a shortened season, 60-game season due to the pandemic. It's going to come down if everything gets back to some sort of normalcy in the next year or so, to watch how these two clubs progress and develop, because it's basically you have an old school manager in La Russa, which I love, and you got the new school philosophy in AJ, and it's going to be interesting to see which one prevails. I'm an old school guy, Bob, so I mean I'm pulling for the old school guys.
Well, you and I can manage the White Sox. We're going to have a better record than the Tigers are. The Tigers are terrible. I mean, it's going to be years. I mean, it's a bad job. And, A.J. Hinch, would have loved to go to the White Sox. But, hey, he was, spearhead the cheating scandal. People wondered if he and Alex Cora would ever manage again. A lot of people are upset by this. Why did A.J. Hinch only had a 60-game suspension? And then, boom, he gets a manager job. And there's free agents. There aren't anyone free agents out there unemployed, but he is employed. So, there's going to be some repercussions. I mean, I don't think the White Sox wanted a part of it in the sense where, here's a team that people love. You really want to see this team booed on the road because your manager, headed the cheating scandal. Say if the White Sox won the World Series, are people going to say, yeah, but they must have been cheating because that's what happened in 2017 when he was a manager. I don't think they wanted all the extra stuff that went along with that.
But it's a good point. But let me ask this question, though. And we're on with Bob Nightingale, USA Today, Major League Baseball writer, columnist, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60. You followed, obviously, the playoffs and the World Series. And again, congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers on winning the championship finally. But did you sense any of that from a national perspective as far as the Houston Astros were concerned, that they received? I know some of the media types and former players kind of took a stab at them here and there. But did you get that perspective as far as the fan base was concerned about the Houston Astros being in the playoffs and contending to possibly get to the World Series for another title, despite the cloud that's been hanging over that organization?
Oh, absolutely. People were openly rooting against the Houston Astros. People, were upset, yelling stuff even at Dusty Baker. Dusty had nothing to do with it. He wasn't managing, in 2017, but yet, he was part of that franchise now. Just in the case with the Detroit Tigers, they're not going to be well liked, when they're on the road, for that same reason. And you saw what Dusty Baker did, stuck his old school approach and hung with his starters long. Zach Greinke, he hung in with them instead of going to his bullpen. It paid off. When a young manager like Kevin Cash, and he's going to win Manager of the Year, went by the book, was all orchestrated, and went down to one of the worst managerial decisions in World Series history, and cost him a potential World Series.
Hey, Bob, this is Dan here. Going back to the World Series, what did you think about Justin Turner getting sick and coming back on the field after the game? That's one thing. And the other thing I was going to ask you about, I thought that La Russa might bring Dave Duncan back.
Yeah, I think he talked to Dave Duncan about it, but Dave's not enough good enough health as far as just physical wise. I'm sure he'll pick his brain and stuff like that. But Dave's going to stay, retired. Certainly if they had Hall of Famer coaches, he'd be in that. And the Turner part, it just was not smart at all. Stupid, really, for Turner to go back and celebrate with his teammates and stuff like that. I understand why he wanted to do it. I understand why the teammates weren't going to stop him. But someone should have stopped him. I mean, besides players, there's kids on the field, the family members, or the pregnant wife on the field. So you just can't take that chance.
Yeah, I thought security was going to take care of it, but they didn't.
Well, they tried from what the reports indicated, and he was able to get around them, which is again, it is somewhat unfortunate and somewhat of a selfish act. But on the flip side, I mean, you can kind of understand it. Again, this franchise hasn't won in 32 years. He was a key player in this growth and the fact that they've made it and they finally got over the hump to win the World Series. You can understand he wanted to be a part of that. Hopefully everyone's okay and everything is fine. But from his perspective, he's like, this could be a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. And I want to spend that with my teammates, my brothers, that we all got here together. So I kind of understand his perspective, sort of.
Yeah, I mean, you can understand the emotional part, but you just have to be smart about it. He could have celebrated inside the clubhouse with those teammates, and nobody would have seen anything or said anything. It would have kept quiet. And of course, the thing is now, no matter how many people get infected, from Turner's actions, we'll never know.
Yeah.
That will never be made public. So, hopefully nobody does, but it's a little worrisome. I mean, obviously he and his wife had to take a separate flight, a private flight, away from the teammates. But he should have been away from them right now. But nothing security could do. It's not like tase the guy or something like that. He defied orders.
Hey man, there was a real big uproar. I thought there was an earthquake here in the city of Chicago when it was announced that Tony La Russa was the new Sox skipper. That's because the Sox fan base, half of the fans were satisfied, the other half were not satisfied. Again, I'm an old school guy, and I remember Tony La Russa's first go around here in the 80s. I was very supportive of I was a vendor, as a matter of fact, back in 83, the winning ugly team, the White Sox, and they I think the Cubs piggyback after that, because in 84, you had the big run for the Northsiders. But I think a lot of old school guys, old school Chicagoans, they understand Tony La Russa, they understand the game, and they say, hey, you know what? This guy knows it. He may be 76 years of age, but he's won, and we deserved the championship back in the day. It didn't happen, so, maybe this is an opportunity. But I think the young schoolers, the young kids are like, either they were young or they weren't even born when Tony La Russa was in his first stint here in Chicago, and they're really irate. And I understand that as well. I guess my question to you is, Bob, is that, to me, baseball is baseball. And I understand you have to, tweak it here, fine-tune it there. But at the end of the day, baseball is baseball. Do you see that Jerry Riles office say, hey, you know what? This guy is a baseball mind. And the talent that we have, if we get some extra pieces, that we can win this championship and we can win maybe multiple championships. Whereas the old school people, the new school guys are like analytics. And we saw what happened in the World Series. Does it matter, in your opinion, from you covering the game, old school versus new school's perspective? How do you see it?
As long as you win. I mean, obviously, when Tony La Russa walks in a room, he's got everybody's respect. I mean, there's only two guys in history, that have never two guys in history that won more games than Tony La Russa. He's in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He took three three teams to World Series championships. People say, "Oh, how can you relate to guys, flipping a bat and showing emotion?" It's the same guy that managed Ricky Henderson. He had Reggie Jackson. He had the Bash brothers. Dennis Eckersley pump his fists. This guy invented the bullpen usage. That's what got Ricky Rennery fired with the mismanagement of the bullpen. So as far as credentials, you're not going to do any better. And when this guy left the playing field as manager, it's not like he went back home and just sat on the couch and ate potato chips. I mean, he was one of the Arizona Diamondbacks front office. Was a vice president with the Red Sox when they won the World Series 2 years ago. Was with Joe Madden with the Angels. So yeah, the gauge is just a number.
Does this affect, how did this affect? Because a lot of people are also saying that Jerry Reinsdorf, it is his baseball team. He is the owner. Some people felt, hey, he owed Tony La Russa, he owed him this opportunity because of what happened back in '86. But do you think this decision and move by the owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, sort of undermined, because there is rufflings from what we understand in the front office and in the organization that some people were surprised and kind of dumbfounded by the decision. Did this somehow, the decision, undermine Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams because it appears they wanted to go in a different direction?
I don't believe that. I mean, if somebody's really upset by it, they could quit. I didn't see anybody turn in the resignation. I mean, if Jerry Reinsdorf wanted us three to be the GM, we'd be the GM. So he's one who writes the checks. But you're still talking about a Hall of Fame guy and a guy who didn't cheat to win his only World Series. So there's a big difference. And Rick Hahn used to be a player agent, and he had A.J. Hinch as a player. So they go way back. But there's a lot of things on the Houston Astros and A.J. Hinch. There's books coming out. There's documentaries. We saw what happened last year when Carlos Beltran was involved in the cheating scandal, and he got fired before he managed a game. What if more stuff comes out now with Hinch? So no, I mean, it's like how can you go against the decision to hire a guy who's in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, and Bob, when we have another season again, it's it's going to be this. The Twins and the Indians are going to be the competition. They both made the playoffs, obviously. Forget about the Tigers and the Royals, obviously, just for the division. So they really have a good chance to be a playoff team for time to come.
Yeah, I mean the Twins aren't going away. We'll see what Cleveland does with Francisco Lindor. If they trade him away, that means they're not really going for it, or certainly hurt their chances. And like I said, Tigers are where the White Sox were maybe about 3 years ago. Far away from contending. So it's a team built to win now, and we'll see if they have some free agents along with it, to bolster that pitching staff, because that pitching's kind of let them down, down the stretch. Certainly they have the offense.
Well, it's free agents in Major League Baseball now. Today is the first day, and there are a lot of names that are out there. Do you see the Sox? First of all, Bob, where do you see a need for this team? Gio Gonzalez, I honestly thought he was going to be part of the future as far as this pitching staff was concerned for the White Sox, but that didn't happen. How do you see Tony La Russa, Jerry Reinsdorf, Rick Hahn, and Kenny Williams working together to try to build this team up to championship caliber? As you said, you and I and Marvelous, we could have managed this team this past year, and had, I think if I had been in the dugout there, they probably would have gotten to the World Series, because I would have made some different moves than what Ricky Renneria made. But that's water under the bridge so far, as of now. But what moves do you think the Sox need to make moving forward to get them to where Jerry wants them to be?
Well, yeah, they didn't have the pitching depth to go into the World Series. It just wasn't going to happen. So they need some more starters. They could use a guy like Charlie Morton. Remember, he was teammates in Houston when they won the World Series. So I think he's a perfect guy. It's not going to cost much money either. Probably give him a 1 year, 2 year deal. Got to get it DH, be kind of fun to take Nelson Cruz away, but I would think a perfect guy would be Michael Brantley, also from the Astros, who's a free agent. So, they're not far away. Just need some more pitching, and obviously, you're going to have some more young guys step up and help out. Guys, young pitcher who opted out, Kopech, he'll be around all next season. So they should be in good shape. Certainly they'll be favored to win the division.
Hey, let me ask you real quick, and we do appreciate your time again joining us on this Sunday to Rewind Sports 60s. I can't remember who mentioned this, who told me, and the Cubs haven't they didn't pick up the option for John Lester, so he's out on the market. Would it be too far-fetched for the White Sox to say, hey, you know what? Let's give him a one-year deal, see if he can come over here and help us out?
It might be tough. I mean, in the sense where, he got hit around, pretty good last year in the National League. In American League, obviously, a lot more deeper, more talented offenses. So I think he would have a time, switch over to the American League.
Yeah.
I would think a Charlie Morton would certainly make more sense, or someone that used to the American League, pitching lifestyle.
And the only reason I forget who brought it up to me, but the only reason I bring it up is the fact that the one thing that I hate being a Chicagoan, because I love both baseball teams, both the Cubs and the Sox, and with them both making the postseason, I was hoping that they would go deep into the postseason, and who knows, playing the World Series. Crosstown Classic, but it didn't happen. But the one thing what happens in this city between the two ball clubs, they always, for some reason, seem to swap players. Whether it's Sammy going over from the Sox to the Cubs, or, Ricky Renteria coming over from the Cubs to the Sox. I've always hated that, and hence, that's why I asked the question about John Lester. Hey, man, listen, thank you so very much for taking some your precious time on this Sunday to spend with us to get us up to speed as far as the Sox are concerned, and Tony La Russa. And, we'll continue to pick your brain, man. Keep up the great work, and we love what you do. Thank you so very much.
All right, my pleasure. Take care, guys.
Sounds good. That's Bob Nightingale of USA Today, the writer columnist, joining us on the Rewind Sports 60. And if you are watching a Bear game and you're listening to the fastest hour in sports conversation here in the greatest city in the world, that, of course, Chicago. Marvelous. What's going on with the Bears?
Well, Cairo Santos was able to hit a 51-yard field goal in these weather conditions to tie the game, and now it's in overtime with 13 seconds left. So the Bears were able to come back and tie it, which looked pretty dismal when they were down by 10 with just a few minutes left, but they came back, tied the game. Now we're in overtime with about 9:23 to go in the overtime session. So hopefully they'll be able to pull this out. It'll be remarkable.
Wow, it is remarkable. And you got to take your hat off and say kudos to the Bears defense, because they have kept this team in this game. They have kept this team in the game, and they're playing lights out. And for the Bears, good. They gave up 20 unanswered points to the Saints coming out of the locker room, right. And then they fought back to get back into this football game.
Indeed. Yeah, so, that's keep watching, but turn down the sound.
Well, there was one other thing I wanted to bring up to you. If you guys want to jump in and talk with us while we're waiting for the conclusion of the Bear game, hopefully we get an opportunity to, well, I don't know if we're going to get any Matt Nagy press conference because time is running down, but I wanted to ask you, Marvelous, as well as those of you who are listening to the show, or you got us on your computer. Let me say this first of all. It's 2020. It's the first day of November. We're heading in 2021, okay? Listen to me. And Marvelous, I love you.
I love you too.
And of course, the man on the street, Marty B, because you guys are old school guys, and you have your transistor radio.
Not that old.
For you you're old school guys. Yeah. I'm an old school guy. Yeah. But for you youngsters out there, where's your transistor? Let me show you on it. Because nowadays we got the smartphone, so you can get the app and do all of that stuff.
Not wireless.
But you guys, show it. Put it up to the camera, man, right there.
It's not wireless.
Yeah, he's got the transistor radio. It's invaluable. It's invaluable. But We're living in 20.
I know. I used to put one on my bike handle, you know.
There you go, on your Schwinn bicycle.
Yeah, right.
With the 60 bar in the back,
not
right?
Kidding, yeah.
And I want to say this to all of you out there, because I know you're watching a Bear game, but you should have us on your computer, on your laptop, or whatever the case may be, watching the stream on Facebook. 2020, you should. I have the Hall of Fame room. You have multiple television monitors, but you also have the computer going. You also have the smartphone going. So there's no excuse. There's no reason, none, why you can't watch the game with the volume down, of course, but also tapped into the Rewind Sports 60 with yours truly, Jerry Riles, and of course the marvelous one, Dan Marver. But before we go to Bruce Heron, who's on our TR60 hotline, to talk a little bit about this Bear game, and hopefully we'll have a Bear victory, did you have a chance to see this play?
Dumps it underneath to Shameen Jones. They want a little lateral play here for Bo Melton. They'll keep it hot for Vedral. Once more. Hey, big fella. Raekwon O'Neal, take this. Oh, my goodness. Watch out. Still no whistle. Shameen Jones cuts it back inside. He's just tripped up. Ball still live. Vedral still keeps it going. Watch out! There are no whistles. There are no flags. This
That was unbelievable. Do you know what that was? I know it sounded like a lot of noise, which it was.
It was like the band, the California with the band.
It was it's like Cal Stanford game, and John Elway, and you know Chico Rivera, and God bless him, he's healthy, he's fine, he's out of the hospital. But that was Cal Stanford game.
Yeah.
John Elway, Chico Rivera, and of course, you know, we've all seen it. And you see the marching band coming out, and it was an upset victory. John Elway couldn't believe it in Stanford, you know, Cal with the upset. But that was the Rutgers-Indiana game.
Yep.
That was the Rutgers-Indiana game. And that was crazy. It was crazy. It was 2 minutes left in the game, I believe, and the Rutgers were down. And you got to Google this, and you got to take a look at it. It was better than the Cal Stanford game, well, almost better. The Cal Stanford game was an upset, victory. But this one, the touchdown by Rutgers was called back because they said it was an illegal forward pass.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it. Did you?
Well, I'm looking at it again now. There was one that was pretty close. That must have been the one, but most of them were backwards. But there was one that was sort of sideways. Yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of, I understand that, but because these kids put on such an effort, and I love the offensive lineman who grabbed it and he kind of like just threw it over his head. It was hilarious, but it's unbelievable that they pulled this thing off and they were able to score. But unfortunately, the officials say, "Hey, no score because it was a legal forward pass." But you guys got to Google it. Hey, we're joined by Bruce Heron, number 51 in the program, number 1 in our hearts on our TR60 hotline. Bruce, did you get an opportunity to see that play, Indiana and Rutgers, that happened on Saturday, where they did a bunch of passes behind?
My favorite one is when the guy threw it over his head.
Yeah, it was hilarious. That's the lineman. He threw it over his head. Did you get a chance to see that, Bruce?
No, I did not.
It's hilarious. You got to Google it. Rutgers, Indiana. They called it back. Rutgers. It was unbelievable. It was similar to the Cal Stanford game that happened. What was that, in '86 or whatever? It was hilarious. It was hilarious. But they called it back because
82 actually.
82. But they called it back because of a legal forward pass. But I love the fact that these kids had the determination, the energy, and the creativeness to try to pull this thing off and actually score a touchdown to get back into the football game. But unfortunately, they didn't make it happen. Bruce, how are you?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Hey, man, we're hanging in there. We were hoping for a Bear victory before we got out of here, but it looks like the game is in overtime, and they've come back after giving up 20 unanswered points in the second half to the New Orleans Saints and Drew Brees, and now we're in OT, and we're hoping that the Bears can hang on and go to 6-2, man. What do you think?
Oh, man, I tell you what, this has been a real struggle. I mean, after we played, after the way we played against the Rams, and then showing up today offensively, it's just painful to watch, man. It's just, I just wanted to hurry up and get over with. I mean, we got the ball now. We get to drive down the field and kick the field goal, but offensive, man, it's just been painful. Man. Oh,
they've cracked the 20-point threshold at least. That was my bar for winning.
Look at him now. I'm watching this crap now. He just gets sacked. I mean, he has no mobility whatsoever.
Who,
None.
Foles?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's thrown an interception in 7 straight games, they were saying, too, so that's no badge of honor.
So, Bruce, I don't know. I'm sure you've been watching it since the kickoff. In the first quarter of action, I think at the 4:43 mark, Matt Nagy pulled Nick Foles for one play and brought in Mitchell Trubisky to run a play around to the left side. I'm yelling at my television monitor saying, "No, I don't want this. No, just stick to the program." What did you think of that move by Matt Nagy?
Oh, well, I know he was probably trying to do something different and, get some kind of spark. Oh, did he catch it? Yes, he did.
Okay.
He caught it.
Okay, can you give us a play-by-play?
But
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm
Robinson, yeah.
Something off while I'm talking.
I know, pass the Robinson.
No, just turn the volume down. Turn the volume down.
The volume is down.
Okay.
That particular play, I think that Nagy was trying to just trying to spark your team and do something different. Although it really didn't help. We just don't have a quarterback, man. It's just, and you know what? In our offensive line, oh my God!
Yeah,
I'm telling you, our offensive line. They need to do a rebuild on this offense. I know they've got some injuries now, but even before the injuries, man, they just wouldn't. They're not taking care of business.
You know what? And we're on with the great Bruce Herring, number 51 of the former linebacker for your Chicago Bears on our TR60 hotline. Jared Payton, I follow him on Twitter, and he when Massey went down with the injury, and then was it Spriggs? I think Jason Spriggs suffered an injury, who replaced Robin Massey. Jared Payton was like, "Hey man, this offensive line just simply can't get a break." And I responded to him by saying, "Hey man, this offensive line, unfortunately, we're just not good. We're just not good." And the bad thing about it is, and I don't like to beat up on anybody. I don't like to beat up on Ryan Pace, but when it's glaring you in the eye and you see that there were just bad decisions made, you got to point it out. And the fact that I think Cody Whitehair got a contract. I think Robert Massey got a contract. I think Charles Leno Jr. got a contract. I think half the offensive line got contracts, man. And they are, in my opinion, just my humble opinion, and you played the sport, Bruce. They're just not as good as the others. They're a tad below the other linemen in the National Football League, and to me, it's a reflection of that. It shows. What's your perspective, having played the game?
Yeah, the offensive line they're not athletic. I mean, they've got a bunch of big guys. They're just not athletic. Come on, Nick Foles. And I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
It's getting ugly about a minute. Our offensive line, they're just not athletic. They're not a really physical offensive team. And that's what's beating us. That's what's beating us offense. We've got some really good players at the skill level. We don't have a mobile quarterback, and the one mobile quarterback we have, he's just not accurate with his passing.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, and so we need to improve upon that as well. But our offensive line, like I said, they're just not athletic enough, and they don't have a mean streak. They don't walk up to the line and say, "Look, I dare you to bring that ball. I dare you to come my way."
Mm-hmm.
You got to have some guys. You got to have an offensive line that has that defensive mentality that I'm going to kick your ass today.
Yeah.
And I just don't see that fire. I just don't see that fire in the offensive line. So.
It's interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned that because and help me out here, correct me. Back in the day, and may he rest in peace, the greatest running back of all time, the great Walter Payton, number 34. We can remember some of the linemen when he got here in Chicago, who he was running behind, whether it's a Reeve Sori or a Noah Buddha Jackson, or Dan Jiggets. I mean, and they weren't the greatest. They weren't, greatest all-pro linemen. Dennis Lick. I mean, but when they got lined up, it was, hey man, grit on grit, and you knew win or lose, you were in a dogfight. You were in a dogfight with the Chicago Bears. And, you know, we've seen the likes of Jimbo Colbert and Wally Hilgenberg. Oh, we've seen them. But I say Wally Hilgenberg. But the point I'm trying to get across is that this offensive line that we're experiencing this season, they don't even come close to those lines that we've seen in the past as far as Chicago offensive linemen are concerned for the Bears. They don't even come close to that.
You know, guys, there's another thing in play. November 3rd, 3 p.m. is the trade deadline. So maybe they could get some help there. I mean, there are teams like Houston, even that's 1-5. They have receivers that they might trade. It might not be a bad move to try to beef up the line and get some more receivers. I mean, that's another thought.
Do you see that happening? And let's say, I know there are a couple linemen that were on the docket, and I think other teams, I think Buffalo Bills were looking at someone. But do you think that's possible that the Bears? First of all, I don't think that they can find somebody off the scrap heap that's going to be, you know, respectful enough to come in here, because they signed guys who don't even deserve the contract, and commend them for getting the contract, but they're not good enough. They're simply collectively as a bunch aren't good enough to get the job done. But do you trust Ryan Pace to make decisions to try to bring in some type of help for this offense? Bruce?
Well, I tell you this much. Ryan Pace is all we have right now. So, you know, you have to trust him. You have to trust him to make the right decisions. Although, you know, I mean, we've got a number of players on our team right now that you know, you question his ability to do that. But you know, if the Bears are trying to get to the playoffs, trying to win more than one game in the playoffs, they're going to have to do something with the offensive line. And we've got what do we have? A day and a half left, 2 days left before the end of the trade deadline. Into the trade deadline, and you know, some teams that, you know, look at some teams that have no chance of going to the playoffs this year, but they've got a rock solid one or two offensive players. Offensive linemen.
Right.
You know, that we should be talking to him, but you know what? At this point, I don't think the Bears are willing to give up any draft picks at this point, because you know, they over the last 2 or 3 years, man, they haven't had a whole lot of draft picks. And I think that's something that's hurting this team right now offensively.
We're on with Bruce Herron, former linebacker for the Chicago Bears, played back in, 78 to 82 with the Beloved? Yeah, number 51 in your program, number 1 in our hearts. You know, it's interesting because the one thing I do like about this Bears football team, and obviously we're seeing it on the defensive side of the ball, is the fact that I truly believe they do have a lot of heart. I think they have a lot of fire. I think they have a lot of desire, and they want to prevail. Unfortunately, Bruce, when does it come to a point, because there are 3 phases of the game that we talk about, and this Santos guy is doing a heck of a job. He's doing a heck of a job. And Eddie Pinheiro, who is our kicker, he may be looking for a new home. But from a teammate's perspective, and from a player's perspective, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, when you see yourself out there busting your ass every Sunday, every Thursday, whenever you're out there, and then you see this mediocre performance on the offensive side of the ball, when does this begin to wear on you and you say, hey, man, this isn't working. We're getting our ass kicked out here. We're trying to keep you in the game, but you guys aren't performing. When does that ever sink into the locker room? Because I know this team and Matt Nagy and the organization, they try to keep it away from the public and from the media. But as a player on the inside, when does this thing start to somewhat crack and possibly unravel?
Well, I don't think it's going to unravel any more than it already is. What I think that needs to happen is our defense has got to come together and say, listen, our offense has some struggles. Let's go out. We have to go out here and win this game ourselves. We have to cause turnovers, we have to intercept balls, and we have to put it in the end zone. Let's not depend on our offense to do it. Let's go take care of business ourselves. Let's win this thing ourselves. And that's the attitude these guys have got to have. I know when I played, one of the things that Buddy always screamed at us, and we always had a top 5 defense, even when I was playing for Buddy. And Buddy's mentality, and he drove it. He instilled that in us. He drove it in our minds every damn day in practice. About, listen, damn it, I don't want to come up with it. I don't want to hear anybody's excuses about what the offense is doing and what they're not doing. Go out there and let's win this damn thing ourselves. Win the damn thing yourself. And that was the mentality, man. I mean, we just went out and we played our ass off. You know, we didn't always have the best talent, but I tell you what, Buddy was a gamer, man. He came up with all kinds of defenses to throw offenses off and put us in position to where we would have a chance to win. You know, I mean, we didn't have the fastest linebackers. I was the fastest linebacker on the team at the time. Then we got Otis Wilson. Of course, Otis was, you know, big and strong and fast.
Mm-hmm.
But prior to Otis, I was the only guy that had some speed.
Mm-hmm.
But that didn't say that the other guys couldn't play. Of course, they could play. We all had things about us that was pro material and that was beneficial to being a good linebacker, a good player. But the thing about it is that Buddy took whatever he had to deal with, and he put us in a position to win. And that's one of the things that I complain about with the current Bears defense.
Bruce Aaron,
I don't think they're always in the best position to showcase their talent.
Bruce Aaron, join us on our TR60 hotline. Hey, that brings up an interesting point, an interesting perspective. Do you think the Bears, well, defensively, they haven't really lost much. They got Chuck Pagano, who took over for Vic Fangio, and like you said, the defense they're playing lights out. It was addressed after the disappointing loss to the Rams last week. It was addressed the question was asked to Matt Nagy, should he relinquish or turn over the play calling? And, you know, he said in so many words, no, we're all responsible and we're going to continue to do what we're going to do. Do you think it's a mistake for him to continue to call plays for the Bears?
Who, Matt Nagy?
Yes.
Well, you know, I know Matt Nagy's first year here. I mean, he brought with him an offense that we were not accustomed to. They moved the ball around, put the ball in the playmakers' hands, and did a lot of things that being a Chicago Bear, the fans here, we were just not accustomed to. And last year and this year it's even worse. I mean, there's something missing. There's something missing, and part of what's missing is play calling. I mean, our play calling is just not where it needs to be.
It's pedestrian.
But, you know what? Yeah, it is, man. And I think a lot of it has to do with us having a quarterback that is not mobile. Nick Foles he's just not a mobile quarterback. And you know, when he gets pressured and he throws the ball, he's throwing the ball off his back foot, and the ball tends to settle on him or it's underthrown, and you know,
But Bruce,
it's one thing after another when you got issues with your offensive line.
You're right, Bruce. But yet you look at other teams. I was watching the early games today. There's people like Roethlisberger aren't very mobile. It looks like they almost have more people playing on offense than we do because they have nobody in the backfield, and they have 3 guys wide out. I mean,
right.
It's
they got
crazy.
an offensive line for him.
Right.
And stand back there and pick and choose. Look at Brady. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Brady is not a mobile quarterback at all, but man, I'm telling you. Shoot, Brady can stand in that pocket, man. You stand in that pocket 4 or 5 seconds, man, and pick and choose. Well, I know he's open, but man, he had one last week. Let me take this one to my second choice.
You know what? And we're short on time. It's the fastest hour in sports conversation. But the problem is, and as men, we all experience this. We all experience it as men, and we all either got a favorite coat or favorite jacket, favorite pair of shoes, or that we don't want to part with. But our mother, our girlfriend, our wife say, "Hey, you got to let it go. You got to let it go." I think Matt Nagy, I think Ryan Pace, they fall in love with what they think they know, and they stick with it, and they don't want anybody to take it away from them. And unfortunately, they're going to have to give it up sooner or later. Hey, man, how are we looking? Hope it gets windy real quick. They're at our 11. Oh, geez. Hey, Bruce, they're lining up for a
Yes,
field
sir.
goal. I understand, man. Hey, thank you so very much for taking time on the Fastest Hour Sports Conversation on this Sunday at WCPT, brother. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Hopefully, I don't know, man. Let's just hang in there, brother.
Yeah, I will, man. I will. Hey, thanks for having me. I really enjoy this time with you guys. So I'm looking forward to next week.
We enjoy you too, brother. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you
Okay.
next week.
All right, bud. Thanks.
Bruce Heron on our TR60 hotline. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Fastest Hour in Sports Conversation. Thank you to the Marvelous One. Any closing thoughts before we go?
No, how about those Buckeyes?
Buckeyes, how about them?
Yeah, Indiana is the only other team that's 2-0 in the East, and then of course Northwestern and Purdue in the West. Go figure.
Let's get ready for the playoffs. Marvelous, thank you so very much. Have a fantastic week. If you miss any of the portion of this broadcast, check us out on Facebook. Comcast Access on Wednesday, Channel 17, Channel 19, Channel 35 at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. The Bears lose to the New Orleans Saints in overtime, 26-23. Thanks to Devin Tingle, our producer. Folks, have a great rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the week. Go out and vote. We'll talk to you next Sunday. Take care, everybody.
Everyone for being here today. This day, I think, needs to be about Tony La Russa and the organization welcoming back to where it all started, welcoming a Hall of Famer back to where it all started. So my comments are going to be brief. I'm going to try to hit on a couple of anticipated questions up front so that we can then turn the focus to Tony where it rightfully belongs today. We've spent a lot of time over the last few years talking about where we are in this rebuild and phases and, transitioning from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And I think it's important for all of us to note that this hiring today is another indication that we've moved on to that most exciting stage, and that is the one about competing for championships. Thanks to the hard work of our scouts, our player development people, the front office, our analytics group, clubhouse staff, everyone involved, we're on the precipice here of a potentially exciting run and exciting era in White Sox history. Thanks to the players and the clubhouse staff, we have a dynamic, fun, exciting team that's hungry after getting an initial taste of postseason baseball to move on to that next stage. And thanks to the fans' support and patience over the last few years, there's a great deal of excitement in the city right now and anticipation about what comes next. Considering all that, it was clear that this next hire as manager needed to be someone who was capable of taking us to that next level. Quite frankly, as we talked a couple, 3 weeks ago when we initiated this process, this obviously played out a little differently than I initially described I thought it would for all of you. When we discovered, when Tony was receptive to Jerry's original overtures about potentially coming back and taking this position, that changed the focus. I will say there were far more names considered, discussed, vetted, even interviewed than have been discussed publicly. I'm actually good with that because, as we said a few weeks back when we talked about this search, I'm not real keen on having names of those who don't get the job out there publicly. That's up to them if they want to disclose that. But it was a broader endeavor than what's been at least leaked out to the media. But once it became clear that Tony was very much open to this possibility, the process did change and the focus became making sure we could figure out a way to make it work with Tony. As for the ultimate decision about how this takes place, or I should say the ultimate decision about going with Tony, you've heard me say over the last several years on major decisions, that it's about consensus, that it's a conversation between the chairman, Kenny, and myself, and ultimately we come to a conclusion together. Quite frankly, sometimes it moves along more quickly, like when we talk about making the commitment necessary to sign a guy like Luis Robert. And sometimes it takes a little bit longer, like it perhaps does when you're deciding the right time to pivot to a rebuild, as we did a few years back. But the one thing that's consistent is that in the end, when the decision is made, we all are fully committed to making this everything work in the best interest of the White Sox. And everyone's on the same page when that final decision is made. And as someone who was in the room discussing that decision, I can tell you that this was made with the intent solely on putting us in the best position to win championships. It's obvious or easy to fall back on some old narratives that this was about friendship or potentially righting old wrongs or something like that. In the end, Tony was the choice because it's believed that Tony is the best man to take us help us win championships over the next several years and usher us into what we expect to be a very exciting phase for White Sox baseball. Part of my job as general manager is try to explain those thoughts to the fans and to the media. But I don't want to belabor that too much today. Instead, I'll pivot to another one of my responsibilities as GM, and that is to welcome home, welcome back to the organization, Hall of Famer Tony La Russa, next manager to Chicago White Sox. Tony, welcome.
Thank you, Rick. I am really excited to be here today. I know enough people are asking why. And I think there's two answers, at least two major answers. One is during the last bunch of years that I've been upstairs, whether it be for MLB or the D-backs, Angels, or Red Sox, it was a wonderful opportunity to stay close to the game, watch the game from upstairs. It was very difficult, increasingly so, to sit there and think about what's going on downstairs. When you're an advisor, it's something I enjoyed, but I always had this thought, man, it's more fun downstairs. I did get a fresh observation point for how difficult front office work is. I got better feel for scouting and player development, all that thing, but my heart was always in the dugout. And to that, when the first inquiry was made about the White Sox, I perked up because being frustrated being upstairs, but more particularly, I think all managers would understand this. I think everybody would understand this. How rare it is to get an opportunity to manage a team that's this talented and this close to winning. Most of the time, your chances are the opposite. So the combination of looking forward to getting back down there and checking myself, to have the energy and all that stuff, and the White Sox making the call with a chance to win sooner rather than later. I'm excited that they made that choice and looking forward to what's ahead.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate your opening remarks. We've got a lot of questions, obviously, in the queue. So as we said, please keep your hands raised and raise your hand, but also please identify who you're asking your question to, whether it's of Rick or whether it's of Tony. So we're going to go ahead and open up the questions now. The first question is from Scott Merkin of MLB.com. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Tony, how long did it take you to figure out you wanted to do this once you were approached about the White Sox job? And what kind of adjustments do you see, even though you've been involved in the game, what kind of adjustments do you see that will need to be made in your repertoire from when you managed last to now?
I think as far as the timing, I was surprised when I first got the call. And the second conversation, I had thought about it more and had my reservations based on why I retired after 2011, and was challenged about those reservations. And the more I thought about it, and this is like the next day or two, I seriously thought, if you put exactly what I mentioned before, being upstairs for, with 9 years, watching the game closely, I've described to my friends as torture because you're seeing it and you can't do anything about it. So soon thereafter, I realized I was either going to have to stop complaining about being upstairs or go downstairs. And if you're going to go downstairs and you have an opportunity like you have with the White Sox, that's when it got serious. And now, what I expect to change, I think the more you think it changes, the more it stays the same. I watch closely all the postseason. Primarily, it's our team against their team. There's a score. I do think the question that's asked most often is the wealth of information that helps you prepare, and I embrace it. I know our coaching staff will. I think people that watched our clubs the years that I managed know that we were always information seekers. How that factors into game decisions, I think you take the value of that information and maybe have a better chance to put players in a position to succeed. And going to be open about that, but I do know that, and I think I have a good experience at this in the sense that once a game starts, it's a very volatile experience. Players, not machines, how they vary, how the game may be changing within innings, much less game to series. That's why I think it's more important. It's very important that we use the term observational analytics. Once you got all that preparation, you got to watch the game and be ready to. So I think the difference is the preparation will be better. Looking forward to it, but the actual game decision making will be much like what I learned. You watch the game and figure out how to put people in a position to win.
Next question is James Fegan from The Athletic.
Tony, in the past, you have expressed your disagreement with players kneeling for the anthem and protest. And at the start of this season, 5 of the players that you'll be managing going forward kneeled for the anthem. How do you kind of see like you would be able to navigate that disagreement and still build a relationship of respect and trust with the players you're taking over with?
Well, it's a good question. I like the way you ended, build a relationship, because that's what the first priority every year is for staff and I to build a relationship of respect and trust with the team. And you want to get that family feeling. I know in 2016, when the first issue occurred, my initial instincts were all about, respecting the flag and the anthem and what America stands for. There's been a lot goes on in a very healthy way since 2016. And not only do I respect, but I applaud the awareness that's come into not just society, but especially into sports. If you talk about specifically baseball, I applaud and would support the fact that they are now identifying the injustices, especially on the racial side. And as long as it's peacefully protested and sincere, and what I'm learning more and more, like with the Players Alliance, and especially with the White Sox, when your protests actually have action-oriented results, way that you're going to impact to make things better, I'm all for it. At the same time, I do believe if you check White Sox, A's, and the Cardinals, I can name you, at least the White Sox, whether it was Chet Lemon or Junior Moore or Harold Baines, and you go to the A's with Dave Stewart, Dave Henderson, Ricky Henderson, Dave Parker. You go to St. Louis with Ray Lanford, Brian Jordan, Reggie Sanders. I mean, I'll take my chance if you talk to any one of those people. There's not a racist bone in my body. I do not like injustice, and I would support exactly what I mentioned. Anything that's peacefully done and sincerely thought of, and especially with an action at the end of it, will not be a problem.
Next question is from Vinny Duber of NBC Sports Chicago.
Tony, in a similar vein there, that's the important stuff that James was talking about. But in the last 9 years, obviously, we've seen players kind of grow in the way they like to express themselves on the field and have fun, be it bat flips or celebrations of any kind. The White Sox obviously have a guy in Tim Anderson who's been at the forefront of that. What is your approach to kind of letting those guys show their personalities on the field?
Well, lots changed. I can remember when Carlton Fisk challenged Deion Sanders. I do believe at the basis that sportsmanship is important. Respect for the game and your opponents. I do believe in that. You don't run up a score, things like that. But here's what I see different. Every year, and this has been going on for a while, even went on when I was managing, there's more and more attention being paid to who does good and who does bad in the game. I mean, you don't do anything right or wrong in a clutch moment that you don't get celebrated for or criticized for. So I've seen how that has impacted players emotionally. A great example was Eck all those years when he had that very expressive fist pump when he got the third out. That's a lot like what you see today. And I always reasoned it that if it's sincere, I didn't have a problem with it. And what I see now is that with players that are being more exuberant, I take, Tim Anderson for an example. Now it's people showing that, hey, I'm coming through. In fact, Major League Baseball is encouraging them to do so. And if I see that it's sincere and it's directed towards the game, that's displaying the kind of emotion that you want. As a coach, what you want to do is you want to get players passionately involved with the competition. And if you do that, that's how you get exciting games, you're entertaining. So the fact that now that we're encouraging players to be more expressive, I'm going to treat like Tim, for example, part of the family. And the only thing I say, and even some of the people I talk to, if your team celebrates and that their team celebrates, then neither team can be upset when you see celebrations, as long as everybody's doing it sincerely.
Next question, also from NBC Sports Chicago, Adam Hogue.
Hey, Tony, how much were these conversations that, we're asking you now brought up in the interview process and addressed? And have you had a chance to talk to Tim Anderson at all? If not, how do you plan on going about that in the future here?
No, I have not talked to any White Sox player. But once this thing got serious, had numerous conversations with Rick, Kenny Williams. In fact, we had more with Kenny and Rick after it got started than with Jerry. And in depth, everything, what it was about, how you manage, what you think applies. But since family is so important and the culture is so important, the issues that we just discussed in these last two calls, whether it's my feeling on protesting racial injustice, or whether it's celebrating something that you've accomplished on the field. We discussed that at length, and you heard from me how I feel about it, and I think that the organization feels that I'll be sensitive and and be supportive. And also, I have my opinions that I'll present to the players, but I'll respect them and stand behind them.
Next question from The Athletic, John Greenberg.
Yeah, this question's for Rick. Rick, how surprised were you that Tony, was into this idea from what you told us from the beginning? Like you said, prefacing this, that, this wasn't kind of how you phrased what you were looking for. So what was it like on your end as this kind of shifted gears?
Initially, I think I was a little surprised, just given that I knew not only obviously that he was retired, but I knew that other clubs had reached out previously and were rebuffed. But then as I thought about the allure of this job, some of the reasons I mentioned at the start of this call and others that we discussed on the previous call, when we had the opening initially, it makes all the sense in the world. And the fact that we progressed along that path, the logic behind it seems to flow.
Next question is Bruce Levine from 670 The Score. Go ahead, Bruce.
Tony, congratulations, first of all.
Thank you.
Thanks. As far as what the hard questions you had to ask yourself before you decided to take this job, where do you think you're at compared to 10 years ago as far as processing things? And knowing that you have to manage 200 games a year, did you have to ask yourself whether you had the, just the whole physical and mental capacity to do this correctly before you said yes?
Oh, absolutely, because one of the things that I had learned and espoused was, with our team, we have always asked each person to make a commitment, and make a promise. You had to personally say, yes, I contribute to what we're trying to do. I'm going to earn everybody's respect and trust by the way I practice and I play. Well, you'd be hypocritical if you're asking your team to do that and you do not. So the first person that I always checked was my own involvement. Was I getting at this thing to the best of my ability? And that personalization led me through all those years. You mentioned the 200 games. Well, the way I looked at it was, if it's a 9-inning game, I took it half inning at 18 innings. I treated like it's the last inning of the World Series. And so I've experienced that. I know how deep you have to get for that. That's not why I retired. And coming back, you're right. I looked at it very hard because you don't want to, I wouldn't do anything to disrespect the Chicago White Sox or, Jerry, Kenny, and Rick in this opportunity. So the neatest thing I can tell you is the last few days as it's gotten, there have been hurdles right along. The last few days as it's gotten closer, and I could start to think, maybe this is going to happen. Yeah, it's probably going to happen. My internal response has been excitement. I haven't had the first regret. I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I'm anxious to get with the players. I want to show them, what I represent as a person, as a professional. I want to do the same with our staff. So my answer is, I was concerned. I faced it, and I passed my test. Now, I'm going to give you one more thing, which I've told many young managers. The way you survive is if you just look in the mirror and you say you did your best. If you are tough on yourself, then you're immune to all the other criticism, because you're going to get it. You're going to get hassled. Look at Kevin Cash. Made a decision, didn't work. Bad decision. If it worked, good decision. That's been true for years. So I personalize it, and I've been very pleased that lately I'm fired up with no regrets.